Good evening and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for this evening. And tonight is going to be... It's like you'd usually call it a quick start and a kickstart, but it's not that. So it's going to be a ho-ho and the go-go. Which is... Because the title for the show is going to be... How do you like your board games, Mr. Barnes? Rolled or dized?
Oh!
Do you like that?
See what you did with that.
Do you like that? Because joining me tonight is Mr. Mike Barnes, who is... He's either bits of Who Dares Rolls, but if you see him outside looking smart in a tie, that means he's the UK regional manager for Dized UK. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll be wearing shirts and ties anytime soon, if I'm honest with you. We're kind of like cool and trendy company, so, you know, it's onesies all around or something.
Do you have a collection of onesies?
No, you know what? I don't actually own a onesie. However, I did see a Chewbacca one the other day in Primark, and I was kind of tempted. That did nearly tip me over the edge. I was like, well, I might have to.
I think the only trouble with that is that you know you're only going to get about 2 washes out of it, and then you're going to have to put it in the bin. Either that,
this is true.
Either that, or you have to wear it forever and not wash it at all.
Just don't wash it. Get the full Wookiee type sort of odor to it. You know,
the musk.
Yes.
I suppose we better tell these fine people while here. Hello, for everybody that's joining us for the first time. Thank you for joining and listening. The reason that we do this is quite simply because we, for some reason, don't believe there's enough podcasts out there about board games. Don't ask me why. I've written long letters to myself to try and understand it more, but, you know, it's still a thought that goes around my head. And the other reason... that we do this, apart from giving big coughs down the mic to poor Mike, is that sometimes you like to get people on when there's something new and exciting in the board game sphere of things. So when Mike kind of was talking about the concept of Dized, I thought, I'll have a chat with him and see what he's saying to it. So this is why we've brought him on here tonight. So, officially, Mr. Barnes, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you.
I know it's taken 5 minutes, but you know.
Well, you know, it's like the opening credit sequence of a Bond movie.
I don't think we should sing. Who would sing?
No, you don't want that.
Okay, here we go. First question then. If you had a theme tune, what's your theme tune going to be?
What's my theme? What do you hit me with that sort of question straight out the gate?
Well, it's not question and answers, it's just a general chat, as I said. I'm not trying to get anything out of you, just your theme tune song.
My theme tune song would probably be anything from the Derek and Clive albums.
You just stop. We can't do this because you know where they go with that.
Yeah, no. Well, we'll leave that there. People can go and search on Google and.
Yeah. Don't search for that. Don't search for that while you're in your office, potentially in a work-based situation, and definitely listen to Derek and Clive when you've got some kind of headphones in. That's all we'll say. Do you know what I mean?
Indeed. We'll leave that there.
We'll just leave that there for the side, but that's a good start. For me, I think it would probably be the Jackson 5. Can you feel it? Because that's got a good...
That's terribly civilised.
It is terribly civilised, but I'm not going to say kind of like, you know... I couldn't think of anything witty or funny, but I do like that kind of song. Now, as with all things that we do, whenever we're doing, when we're having a chat like this, we like to find, we call it, it's like a gentle interrogation of the soul. So what we like to do is we like to get the car battery ready. What we like to do is we like to find out a little bit about the history. So we're going to have a little bit of a peek back into the past. We're going to have a little bit of a concentrated stare at the tablet of the present. And then we're going to have a little look into the future. But it starts off with a little bit of history, Mr. Barnes.
History?
Yes.
Yeah, you expect me to talk, do you?
I expect you to die. No, no. I expect you to dized off. Right, I should have said so. dear, messed that up.
We nearly had it.
We did it. No, it was close. We could run it again, but then it would involve editing, and it involves kind of matching up the sound waves and stuff like that.
That's a lot of work.
It is, and it's not a very funny joke.
It wasn't that good a game.
Nah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
We'll move on.
Yeah, but how did you start venturing into this world of lovely coloured bits of paper and cardboard?
Well, yeah, the cardboard world. Mine, do you know what? From very early days, if I'm honest, I always was interested in board games anyway. And probably my earliest memories of board games is stuff like the early Games Workshop stuff. Mm-hmm. So we're talking 1980s output, stuff like the Judge Dredd board game from Ian Livingstone.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
That was pretty cool. That was kind of, I was a big 2000 AD reader anyway, so that was kind of mashing together great things. So yeah, Judge Dredd, all the Chains of Warrior, all the early GW stuff when they were back in the day when they were producing board games.
Yeah.
So definitely that's my earliest, probably proper hobby board games. I mean, it was playing all the usual stuff. And I did that it was well into that. Then that kind of digresses into the whole miniatures stuff. 40k eventually, and Space Hulk and all that sort of expensive toys.
Did you have a large collection of like Space Hulk? And
I did. Yeah, you know what? I had my job at the time. So I'm kind of moving out of school years, teenage 20 years, early 20s.
Yeah,
I had a job of incredible amount of disposable income. So yeah, I had a lot of stuff.
How many?
Everything.
How many?
I think I had about 3 or 4 armies of 40k. I had squats, which are little dwarfs, marines, orcs, and I painted all. How did I find time to paint all this stuff? Then I had the epic stuff we went into, so I played that, and I had a friend of mine who was obsessed with it as well. So there was 2 of us just kind of feeding each other's addiction. Like 2 just junkies, it wasn't a healthy relationship.
Oh
really.
My goodness! Like two. What's the phrase? Like 2 spent swimmers that drowneth in their art.
It was indeed, yeah. It was like train spotting, but with more meeples.
I did a train spotting joke a long time ago when Kevin Young was on the show, and it did start off with like kind of choose life. You know, and obviously I was able to do it because I'm Scottish, so it sounded.
Well, yeah, you can do that very well.
I did actually sound kind of not too bad. So, did you do the usual, and did you take a break from your tiny little figures to do other things?
Yes.
Or did you stay within the hobby and embraced it even further?
No, you know what? I did have that falling out of thing. I mean, I stuck with it for a while. That went from Games Workshop, a lot of RPG stuff. I kept the RPG thing going. A bit of vampire, a bit West End stuff. So all like Star Wars and Ghostbusters and all that sort of gubbins. I remember my obsession was Leading Edge. They did the Aliens board game.
Wow.
Which I had all of that and the miniatures they published with it, which to my dying day, I will now be the biggest regret is I sold that. When my youngest, my firstborn came along, we were looking for, along with a lot of the 40k stuff. So that went, and to my dying day, I'm going to regret selling that bloody game.
So let me get this straight. In order to fund things for your firstborn child,
yes,
you sold some board games.
I did. This is some time in the past now, so I'm almost over it.
I mean, have you questioned your ability to love your cardboard again? I mean, that sounds like a shaky ground.
It is. I mean, this is before I was back into the hobby, so this was kind of this was before I was. I don't think it would happen now. He would have been absolutely stuffed. I think, frankly.
You could have gone out and bought like something like Mechs and Minions, and then used the lid of the box.
Indeed, he could just sit in that, couldn't he?
He'd be fine.
He'd be well happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I did. I was well into it, and then probably 90s, I got a job. I worked for Nintendo, believe it or not, of all the weird and wonderful things.
All right. Okay.
And I was working for them in the marketing department. I ran their hotline, which was this
really
call center. Yeah, if you know anything of ancient history of that, but there was a a call centre that you'd ring up
Yeah.
Nintendo with. At the back of your instruction book of your Zelda or whatever would say, ring us, speak to the games counsellors.
Yeah, it was. I used to ring them all the time. I think I used to. It was fantastic, and it was Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Yeah, yeah.
And
so yeah,
it was always how to get from the light world to the dark world, or there was a couple of things you could never get back, or why can't I defeat this boss? And it's like, well, have you got the fire wand? No. And that was that. So yeah, it was. Yeah, wow. How long did you do that for then?
I did that for about 8 years. I started off on there as a games counsellor. So there was a job ad in the newspaper, a photo of Mario on it, saying, "Do you like video games?" And I was like, "Yeah, I like video games." And yeah, so that was crazy, really. Just doing that, I did that for probably about 4 or 5 years before I moved on to the marketing department.
But how did it work? Did you just did you specialise in specific games, or did you have like big books full of knowledge that you just... Because I always had a view when I phoned up that there would be a guy sitting at a desk, and behind him there would just be A4 folders just full of kind of like Nintendo facts.
It's not a million miles away from the truth.
And you would just turn around and grab it.
Well, when we started, there was a core team of 7 of us started, all at the same time. And I remember the first day coming home from them, where I literally had a big bin bag, which had NES in it, a Game Boy, which we were just launching, and all the software titles. And I mean, I was still at home at the time. I mean, my mum was just looking at me like, "What's this?" And I'm like, "This is homework. I'm doing work.
This is my job."
And we had I can't remember. We had something like 4 or 5 weeks to get up to speed. They're the American hotline, but we didn't really have anything from them. So we literally took a game each and just broke it down, played it, completed it, and worked it out. And that's pretty much what we did. And it's really the only issue of all of this. It has ruined video games forever for me, because I've been doing this for 5 years, and you got this mindset of the quickest route and how to tear down a game to complete it and do it. I can't play a game just for joy anymore. It's still there at the back of my head. Is this sort of, no, this Terminator type need to kill this game.
Where are the exits?
Yeah, no. I want your claws, your boots, and your motorcycle.
What's your name? What's your daddy do?
So yeah, we did that. So most of it was we wrote the manuals ourselves. We wrote them out, and they were all in big lever arch files. There was no computers back then, really. It was all done, written out, photocopied and stuff. But most of it we knew. We just knew. We'd done it so many times, and most people most of it was like a photo recall. We could kind of you get the call and you'd know exactly what someone was going to ask you about certain games. So you didn't even half the time even look at the manuals. You knew it. It was, it's like geeks and obsessing over stuff. Well, people know lines from movies and all that. After a while, we were just encyclopedic knowledge of all these NES titles.
What game did you have? What game did genuinely people call up the most about? Was there one that everybody it was maybe a fault in the game design, or it was something like that, where people just came up against a brick wall and went, "Nah, I gotta phone this in"?
All the classics did. There was often we'd get calls about Rygar, if you ever remember Rygar, which was a side-rise scrolling kind of Castlevania type thing.
Yeah.
It had a whip or axe, I can't remember. I mean, and people it was impossible to beat. It was a horrific game. I think it was one of them we never really finished because we were like, oh my God, this is awful. But we used to get a lot of calls about that, and you're just like, oh man. What do you want me to say? It's all to do with physics, man. Use your fingers, timing.
It was reaction. That was back in the day where you used to get you actually just used to get like credits. You didn't have save states.
No, you had like 3 lives, and that was your lot.
You didn't have patches. If a game went out and it was like there was a glitch in it or something like that, that was it. You were stuffed.
It's broke, that's it. Sorry guys.
You just have to kind of get on with it. You have to just live with it. I remember playing lots of Spectrum games and realising some of them had kind of shipped a bit buggy. I remember the best one, I think.
Yes,
the best one was the, speaking of Beast Schwarzenegger, is the Total Recall Spectrum game. that it kind of had a really troubled development, and I remember if you put a code in on the high score screen, it changed the entire game and called it Total Rewrite.
Yeah, the old days of the old hack codes and all that.
Oh, it's fantastic. So you moved from being on the phones to doing the marketing, and then at this time are you getting back into the hobby again? Are you still standing about in the periphery? Or are you going like, no, give me the console games, please?
Yeah, I was knee deep in it at that point. I mean, it was weird because there was I went to the marketing. We did have a period of time. At one point in time, we actually had Games Workshop came to us at the offices, and I can't recall what on earth it was about, but there was some sort of license or something we were going to do.
Oh.
And that kind of got the spark of it because I remember speaking to one of the guys saying, "Oh, I've got all this stuff at home," and he was kind of glazing over, going, "Oh, what, really? What's that?" It's like, well, this is ancient history now. So yeah, I was still well not into it. I mean, a friend of mine in Portsmouth, where I used to live, had a comic book shop, Mundo Comics in Portsmouth. If anyone knows that, and it was like a weird kind of Cheers-ish, everybody knows your name type place you went into. It was a very weird time. It's nuts. And I used to kind of live between there and working. And that's when I started getting the feel back for the board games a little bit.
Did he look like, is it Bilbo? It was Spaced TV show.
Yeah. There was a genuine there called Jeff, actually. Big lad called Jeff who's still around somewhere. He used to sit in the corner and sort the comics. It was a weird, you ever read the book High Fidelity or seen the movie?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. It was like that.
Yeah.
And I was like the Jack Black character because I never worked there. I used to stand behind the counter and just abuse customers, and he did not care.
He used to come in and used to say, "What are you doing there, champ? You buying Lonely Place of Dying?
Yeah, exactly.
You having a laugh?
You're not buying. Oh no, you're not buying.
You're only doing that because you heard about the phone vote. You know that. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. It was bad. It was a weird time. So I literally days off, I would literally go to the comic book shop and hang around in there all day long, and do nothing other than bitch at customers and read comic books.
Did you have long flowing hair at the time as well?
At the time, I did have long flowing locks. I had the full works. I had the long flowing locks, leather jacket, torn black t-shirt, the full works, you know. As is required.
This is like Mike Barnes' life story. We could just do this. Do you know what I mean? You can explain that we're doing the other thing another time. Because this is too much nostalgia for me. I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember doing that. Yeah, I kind of remember doing that. So what was the first game that kind of tipped you back down the cardboard road then?
Well, to be honest, it was big jump forward because that was all happening, and then I kids, married, family, blah 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 blah, all happened. So we're talking about almost like a 10, 15, 20 year leap. And all the rest of the stuff in between is a bit boring, so we'll leave that anyway.
Just love and relationships.
That stuff.
Building a life together and all that kind of nonsense.
If you want to go down that way, but you know. So yeah, I ended up in a new group, which was like my brother-in-law and some of their friends, as friends of the missus, the wife, and all. We started, though I'm going to admit it now, was actually playing Risk again. Now I know it's not going to do my geek cred any good.
There's nothing wrong when you're taking those first steps back into the hobby. For a couple of them to be faltering,
it happens. So yeah, we were doing a lot of Risk and Lord of the Rings Risk and more Risk, and then I dug up my old copy of Hero Quest.
Oh.
I was like, oh, let's play a bit of this. And then I was there going, you know what? Hold on a minute. There's got to be more board games around.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, and this is probably, I'm trying to think how many years ago this is now. This is probably 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, maybe longer than that. I looked on Tut Internet and had a root around. And sure enough, one of the first things I came across was, Risk Legacy had just been released. And I was like, well, that's Risk. We've been playing lots of Risk. Yeah. I could get us into that. I'll get that. So that was one of the first ones that got us back into it. And boy, was that a way to get back into the hobby again.
I mean, little did you know what you were letting yourself in for.
No, I mean, the concept of it, I was like, this sounds amazing, you know. And, yeah, and it was, I mean, you know, to be fair, it blew our minds. And still to this day, Risk Legacy, you know, taking aside its Risk and all that, the whole of that legacy and that first play of that was just something else.
Oh yeah,
that was a damned good way to get your introduction back into the hobby, full big time.
So was that afterwards you kind of had to sit down and say, honey, we might need to buy some shelving?
Yeah, it didn't take long after that. And there may have been a couple before that, but it was very short time after that. I think within 6 months already the collection had grown. And I think, in fact, 6 months in is when I set up the website, I think.
Really?
I started doing Yeah, I was writing a book. I was going to write a young adult book, sci-fi book.
Okay.
And I was about 2/3 of the way through that, and I had a website for it and everything else. And then this board game thing started. Right. And very shortly, I started writing a couple of reviews I was putting on this website.
I want to hear about the book, Mike. You don't get away with it, right? What was it called?
It was called Fire Knight, and it was a trilogy. It was going to be a trilogy. It still exists. I've been meaning to finish it, and it was which now, as always with a lot of ideas I should deal with them at the time, because then eventually what happens is everyone else comes along and does it.
Yeah.
It was all pulling from the 80s. I wanted to do something which referenced to the 80s, all those kids movies we love, all the things like, the Temple of Doom and all those.
All right.
Everything from the 80s, which was a bit dangerous, but fun, and kids in peril. And so that, but in a sci-fi thing with like almost a quite serious Ender's Game, almost, Full Metal Jacket to it, where these kids going off to war and dealing with some pretty heavy duty stuff. And horrible alien-y, virusy stuff that does horrible things to people. It was all kind of like this big space opera thing, and it was setting itself out into this sprawling epic. And it was a lot of work.
Where is it now? You said it's 2/3 going. What's going on?
It's sat there, and I, in fact, before I started doing what I'm doing at the moment, I'd pulled it out of the drawer. Yeah. And was going, you know what, I should finish this because this was so close to being done. So maybe at some point when I get a spare moment, I'll finish it.
Just get it done.
I need to get it done. So it's kind of part of creation thing is also that fear of completion. See, if it's there being tweaked at, then it's never quite finished.
I know.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, but if you finish it, then you've got the 15 edits and rewrites that you've got.
I know.
To do,
I've been editing and rewriting it for about 5 years. So. Just not finishing it.
Do you ever walk past? Of course you do. I was going to say, do you ever walk past kind of like the DVD shelves in Asda or Tesco's and go, damn, that's my idea.
There's been, Stranger Things came out, and Stranger Things, whilst that's not sci-fi, the whole of what they were doing with Stranger Things, which was the whole 80s, referencing all those good 80s stuff, I was there going, oh, because that's what I was doing. I was like, I'm taking a bit of Kroll, and I'm taking a bit of, all those sort of, that stuff. Battle Beyond the Stars is a favourite of mine. All these crazy sort of old, cheap Corman 80s sci-fi and horror and all that stuff.
And then you've got like Ready Player One, and there everybody was saying for a while that Ready Player One was like fantastic. And then
that was brilliant.
I've heard people go, actually Ready Player One's not as good as everybody says it is, but I guess your mileage may vary. I guess there's a sweet spot that it hits where it looks my jam, because I am a child of that era.
Have you not read it?
No.
Oh man, you need to read that book. If you're of that era, you will it's like catnip for you. You just,
I'll tell you,
it's incredible.
At the moment, I've started on, I said I was going to mention this on the show, I might as well drop it in just now, but I've started on a friend of mine, Mick Fraser, who I used to write for a video games website a little while ago, quite a couple of years ago now. But one of the guys on there, Mick Fraser, he wrote a book under the name of Angela Strange, and I think it's called The Legend of the Arc Lighters or something like that. So he's wrote that book, and it's published there, and it's out on Amazon. And so he's finished his book. So I'll tell you what, right? If you make a road to write in your book, I'll make roads to reading Ready Player One.
That's a deal. I tell you, you're missing out. You need to get on it. It's if you're anyway geeky, involved in the 80s and all of that D&D and video games of that era, it's the only book I still carry around. It's one of those ones where if I go away for some period of time, either for business or something else, I'm travelling, I always take the book with me. because I just read it. It's one of those I can dive in and out of.
I'm going to have to... I'm usually the person that's telling people to go ahead and go and get things and buy things and stuff like that, but it looks like you're trying to persuade me, Mr.
I would.
Barnes,
It's a good couple of quid. It's well worth grabbing. It's a great book. It is a great book. Whatever people say.
I'll get it on Amazon. It'll be like a penny.
Yeah.
It'll be a penny and it'll be like $1.78 to ship it out to me, so... as Amazon do. Of course, as we say, other marketplaces are available. Terms and conditions on request. What you've been going, obviously your collection has grown. No doubt you've got some shelving units to deal with everything, and you've got your kids, and you're married, and you've got probably various animals involved in your life as well. But what are you playing at the moment? Is there anything that recently has kind of caught your kind of interest?
I play a lot of stuff. Recently, I've been playing a bit of Near and Far. Been playing a bit of that.
Yeah,
I'm quite enjoying Near and Far. It's scratching some story itches. Godfather, the new Godfather game.
Yes,
really, really enjoying that, despite its production overproducedness. But the actual game is damn solid. Really good game.
Why is it overproduced? What makes you say it's kind of like overproduced?
Well, my only two annoyances with the Godfather game, as I say, it's a fantastically well-designed game.
Yeah.
I was totally sold. When Eric Lang says, I'm making a Godfather game, I'm like, yeah, right, I'm there, man. And he's there going, I like Godfather. And I'm like, I really like Godfather, okay? And, so I was kind of already, I was sold instantly. The theme isn't there. That's my only real, two things annoy me it's not really a Godfather game. It's got Marlon Brando on the box.
Right.
But it doesn't really capture the Godfather movies for me. It's a mob game.
All right.
That's my issue with it. And it's kind of a bit overproduced, really. It's got those miniatures, it's got the tins. It's all cool. And it's really cool toys and stuff and minis and everything else in there. But then there's just weird choices where the card art is all kind of duplicated and you're going, why haven't you got more card art in here? It should be much more thematic than that.
Tins and stuff, but you've not bothered to commission an artist to do some extra work for it.
What's brain-boggling is the rule book is packed with this beautiful oil-painted art of all gangsters and stuff and all the settings, and you're like, this is gorgeous. None of it is on the cards, or very little of it, and you're going, is it me? Have I missed a trick here?
Can you express your disappointment in a Marlon Brando type voice then?
It'd be like, and imagine I'm stroking a pussycat while I'm doing that.
You got your face kind of stuffed, just grab some coffee, just stick it in there.
Just wedge it in there.
Trouble with you is you're all frills.
It took sides against the family.
We're gonna go to the mattresses. My word, that's terrible. Yeah, but Godfather's kind of... I've seen a lot of people on various groups on Facebook kind of go, this is it, this is absolutely amazing, it's fantastic. And does not being as exposed to the Godfather as you are meant to have been, is that going to affect your enjoyment of the game, or do the mechanics see it through?
Yeah, the mechanics sell it. I've been a load of people prior to release were making a big thing about, if you're not into the theme or the theme. There's no theme. I'll be honest. It's real lip service. It's a mobster game. And as long as you can get behind the fact of that, then you're fine.
So what's it about then? I mean, what's the, because everybody says, go and play it, but I've not actually seen anybody say this is why you should be playing. I think Michael May, maybe even Luke Hector were
I think Luke did a review of it recently,
they were kind of crowing on, they were certainly showing off, look what arrived today, and I was like, yeah, thanks Luke. Thanks a bunch.
It's Eric Lang. So Eric Lang is, I'll tell you one of the most refreshing things about it is the rules itself. There's like 5 main rules to the game. You get the rule book out, it's quite slim, and you read it through, and it's like, there's literally like 5 rules. On your action, on your turn, you do one thing. It can be one of these 5 things. And it's an area control, and you end up like that. You're controlling either these storefronts or areas of the city. And you've got these sets of cards which you're set collecting or you're using them to do stuff as actions. And it's real basics of that, but it's one of those, with the first round you play it, you go, oh, I can't see how I'm gonna do much, or like the actions seem limited, and then you get like about another round in, the second round in, suddenly what looks like a real simplistic base of rules and strategy suddenly just becomes like Lord of the Rings epic. And then you're going, hold on a minute, it's damned good. It's really well done. It's really well designed. In this age of these ball games coming out, which are convoluted rules, all this stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
This manages to do it so like just like almost like without even trying. It's damn good. So if you're anyway at area control, take that in it. It gets vicious. Usually most of our games reach about the third or fourth round, and then it turns into like St. Valentine's Day massacre, where there's literally everyone's dead.
Oh no.
So it's good fun. But yeah, be aware, it's got take that in it. It's got bidding and bluffing, and this area control. I mean, if you play Blood Rage,
I have Blood Rage is another one of these games that's kind of on the list for me, and because I've actually started kind of checking out what you can get it for.
Yeah, it's probably come down in price now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bloody good game as well. They're siblings. They're not similar, but they're siblings. But Godfather, a solid game. Just really solid game, is what I'll say on it, really.
I'm interested to hear what they say about Rising Sun, because I've heard people kind of went, do you know what? I think because it came from Simon, which sounds, just call yourselves Cool Mini or not. Everybody knows you're Cool Mini or not. Everybody still calls you Cool Mini or not. You don't need to Simon. It sounds like somebody trying to be posh.
I was concerned by saying it that I'm going to be misconstrued, if I'm honest with you.
Exactly. I've got a mouth like a sailor. What? Simon? But yeah, I mean, I think what I saw was there was people I know that went to Gen Con and they got their hands on Rising Sun, and they said, it's not just miniatures, it's diplomacy and it's tactics, and it's like they've taken it to the next level. So everybody that was just expecting some kind of dungeon crawl type game, they don't have to worry about that anymore. Because they did Massive Darkness, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, they did do Massive Darkness.
And it's been a bit of a... People have been a bit disappointed about that. I saw Michael May on Two Can Play That Game. He did his review of Massive Darkness. He says, yeah, it's good. It's really good. But the campaign, it's, yeah, you know.
Yeah, I see, I like their stuff, Comedy stuff.
Yeah.
I backed Racing Sun. I mean, it was helped by the fact that the old Langster attached as designer. He's usually a pretty safe bet. I mean, the Arcadia Crest is really good. I really enjoy that. But things like the Zombie Side and all that, I've owned, but they tend to be a bit like the Michael Bay of board games, in that it's a lot of flash and shiny, but there's not really much else going on behind that. You kind of go, oh, is that it?
It's kind of like Ameritrash, but in all fairness, my microphone is sitting on a box of the others. So
I'm just looking across actually at the other. That was all right. That was quite entertaining.
And I've got Cry Havoc underneath that because I'm standing on a. I record standing up, which is a weird thing to do because it means I can watch. Sometimes why the audio on the recording sounds a bit funny because sometimes I'm walking over here, you see, and then I can walk back again, or I'll find myself subconsciously kind of swinging back and forward. Why there's sometimes a sudden change. But no, I stand up and what I do is I put the mic on two boxes. So tonight the boxes were on the others and also Cry Havoc, which is fair enough. I heard Cry Havoc are releasing an expansion, which is kind of
Mr. Portal.
Yes, but yeah. So yeah, I'm people of who was it? Stephen Rhodes, who was on the show recently. He said that the others is fantastic. As I say, people have been here or there through Massive Darkness, but I don't know if that was maybe down to the kind of the issues with the prints on some of the cards.
There was problems, I hear.
There was.
I didn't back it. I mean, I'm kind of sold fully down the road on Imperial Assault at the moment. That's my go-to dungeon
Really?
crawl.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's Star Wars. Star Wars dungeon crawl. What more do you need in life?
Legion?
No, Legion, I'm not. I'll tell you what. Legion disappointed me, the announcement, if I'm honest with you.
Really?
Really not behind that.
But Star Wars on the big table.
Well, yeah, it is, but it's a minis war game. What frustrated and annoyed me about it was that the miniature scale is like a fraction difference from the Imperial Assault minis. It's not a massive jump up, and that's got its own skirmish game in it, which is probably the nail sunk deeply into that one, I would have thought. I don't know. It just seemed a bit of a cash grab that you think, well, you probably could have just used the mini scale we've already got, and then everyone could have used what they've already got and then bought extra. That's my feeling.
Yeah, but you can't see that. I can imagine them kind of releasing the rules on that and saying, we'll just use your Imperial Assault stuff.
They could have done starter sets with all the stuff in, but they've done it. I don't know. I'm literally like, the issue is I'm very choosy on these, because you go, that's a rabbit hole.
That's a big money investment. An Imperial Assault, you've got your Imperial Assault, you play your Imperial Assault, you can get a couple of expansions, you can get them quite cheap, and there you kind of go. Legion, that's a 6 foot by 4 foot table job, and you're gonna want to do a Battle of Endor or a Battle of Hoth.
Yeah.
So you're gonna want lots and lots of lovely figurines, but we shall see.
And I don't want to paint any more stormtroopers, if I'm honest. Okay.
Well, they'll just end up looking like, I think I've said this before, they'll just end up looking like the little mechs out of Mechs vs. Minions. You just do like a little wash on
them. That's a good game as well, by the way. Mechs vs. Minions. I picked that up recently. I was well impressed with that.
I've talked far too much about Mechs vs. Minions that actually Riot Games have got in contact and said, guys, stop talking so much about Mechs vs. Minions, because otherwise we're going to have to give you some money. So, I really like Mechs vs. Minions Riot Games.
I tell you what, all I say on the regards to that is like that insert and everything about that game and the production quality. You go, these guys are a video game company. What the board game company's been playing out all these years that they've not been able to get that right?
It's just, yeah. It's just, I don't know. As I say, I'm just going to get myself in trouble. I'm going to get another email from somebody to just say you're just a fanboy. Yes, I'll tell you what, I'm a fanboy of an insert that I can actually use, which is why I'm looking forward to Wasteland Express delivery service, and which is why I've seen a lot of guys saying, oh well, the inserts, we're definitely looking... upgrading the inserts on Kickstarter seems to be quite a thing which people are kind of pushing a bit.
I know, it happens. I've never done it. Other than that, I'm a baggies man. I just cannot see the point of spending the price of, or more than the price of a game to make it fit in the box. I'm just like, get some baggies, stick it in the baggies, stick it in the box.
Well then, I was looking through the others the other night, and I punched all the cards and the tokens and everything like that, and I realised there's no physical way to get everything back into the box unless you squeeze stuff under each other, and I thought that just annoys me. They've got these lovely kind of cardboard boxes. It's kind of like the Dark Souls board game, which is fantastic. But they've got these massive boxes to protect the miniatures, but then you've really not got any space to physically put the counters, and the cards themselves are on a tray. Now, I raised this with David Carroll at the time, and he says, well, we just have to bag it up. So kind of there you go. But yeah. But it's it's one of these things. So you get to the point where you're playing all these games and sounding like you're having a really, really good time.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned obviously writing, and then you're mentioning you're doing the reviews and stuff. I mean, what made you move from being kind of like a guy that was enjoying his cardboard to writing about it? Where did Who Dares Rolls come about from? Where did you get the idea?
At the time, and this is going back 5-6 years ago, there wasn't that many, especially UK-based board game content creators, or at least not fully that I was aware of. I mean, Shut Up and Sit Down were just started at that point in time.
Yeah.
And and their content, their video and all that is fantastic. And I was like, well, these guys are really good. And then there was Dice Tower, obviously Tom was doing his thing, and there's a lot of the US stuff, but there wasn't really a massive amount of UK based thing. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm enjoying this. I've done some writing in the past. I did write a long time ago for Superplay magazine, did a few articles and stuff. Oh, right, so I was like, I've done a bit of that. So I've got a background into marketing. I've got a background in a bit of journalism. I've got writing. Screw it. I'm going to go and I'll start doing some board game stuff. So, it was kind of like an overnight decision. I whipped up the logo on the website and that became a thing, and then I was doing it. It was as simple as that, really.
So what are you doing? Are you doing a mixture? When you're reviewing games, are you the guy that just reviews games that you have, that you've bought, or do you actually get review copies kind of sent to you now?
I have had a few sent. My early days in bread and butter, and still even so, was a lot of it was based on supporting UK designers and talent, because I felt that the big guys get a lot of press because they get a lot of press.
Yeah.
You know, Dice Tower everyone covers them. So I did start initially, and I still do have a thing for UK designers and UK homegrown talent. Because they don't necessarily get shouted at enough. So it was something that I could get access to, and I could speak to them, and there's some interesting stuff coming out of the UK. And even now, there's loads more stuff coming out. It was really a bit of that, and I wanted to try and do it like an old school Zap 64 magazine style, which never really happened, but the idea was there.
Yeah.
And it just kind of evolved from there. It was really, as with everything in my life, there was never any plan behind it, other than, this is a cool idea, I'm going to do this.
Exactly. Let's see what happens. What happens if I press this button?
So so it started, and it's been, it's stood me a good stead. 5-6 years later, I've made lots of just some really good friends in the industry, just by talking to people and going, "Oh, stuff's cool," and it's just, that's the one thing I always say is the board game. Generally, people around it are usually pretty nice chaps and chapesses.
Yes, I've kind of been finding that. Even in our 18 months that we've had, being around, as like I was talking to somebody today about this, and just saying, well, in 18 months, if I've had a guest list, that if I transpire that over to if I transpose that into being like a video game type of guest list, I'd be having the likes of Shigeru Miyamoto himself kind of coming on. But the video game kind of space is still very kind of PR driven.
Oh yeah, it's
still very kind of, what is your name, who are you, what's your reach, who's your audience kind of thing. Whereas the board game space, there is maybe a couple of people that are kind of cotton on to that, and they'll court the kind of the video game kind of media to get kind of exposure. But you still can email Tom Vassell.
Yeah.
I emailed him the other week. He told me to leave me alone again. But
stalking me. Yeah,
exactly.
I've got to frame my email from Tom Vassell when I asked to join the Dice Tower, and I've got a refusal email from Tom that I'm going to frame. Yeah. Take with me. Mainly, he was just like, "No, you're filthy mouthed people. You're not coming on the Dice Tower."
Let's not go there.
What are you thinking? It's not happening.
No. But no, it's nice to kind of just be able to email people and have them go, yeah. I'll come on. So it comes down to asking. It's like one of these things.
Yeah.
It's like if you're wondering, because I do get asked, "Oh, how do you get these people on the show?" And it's like, well, it's like how I got. It's like how I got you on tonight, Mike. It's kind of like you sent an email, I sent an email saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, you want to come on for a chat?"
Let's do that. Yeah,
and that's how it kind of occurred. So
yeah. If just ask these people. Yeah, I did it. Rob Davio was one of the first ones I got on to interview, and I literally was like nerding out behind the microphone. So I'm just like, he's my hero. I'm such a fanboy, and it's like, my God, how has this happened? But it is just saying. It was just having a little bit of. Just say, do you want to come on the podcast? And it was like, yeah. I'm like, Jesus, shit.
I think mine was John Gilmore.
Cool. John's a good man.
John's coming back on.
He's the man.
He's coming back on end of September.
Cool. Well, yeah, I listened to that one because he's a great designer. I love his stuff.
Yeah, he's really, really good. But he's also really, really approachable. And you just so he was the first one. So I remember speaking to him and him going, "No, it's so." I said, "I'm really nervous." He says, "Don't worry, it's fine." He says, I'm not here to scare you. And it's kind of, and then you just chat, and then you realise you've chatted for like an hour and a half, and the time's just kind of gone really, really quickly. But who dares Rose? That's a kind of an ongoing concern.
It is kind of, it's a very evolvey sort of thing. We do written, just like doing video, bits and pieces of video. We did a podcast for quite some time, and still it's sort of spontaneously appears a new episode does, with no real rhyme or reason to it. And some of it's just I'm busy, and some of it, I mean, I've got a couple of other guys now. There's Charlie, who writes a lot of RPG stuff on there for me.
Yeah.
A guy called Adam writes some articles. I write stuff when I can occasionally. I've got some bits coming up, and I did start kind of moving into the video. Because it was a bit easier in some ways to do. I find writing, I tend to write and rewrite, and I'm not happy just putting out a review. I want it to be kind of a bit of a story and a bit more involved, a bit more artistic than just a Guardian review, if you get my meaning, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very, very easy to fall into the review trap where you just say, okay, here's an introduction, which says, but does it fulfill all these kind of needs? Let's find out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then here's the mechanics, and then here's the kind of the roundup. And I think that's kind of why the guys like Sit Down, Shut Up and Sit Down kind of did quite well, because they took that and they turned it on its head and they says, well, let's actually just go outside and do a video.
Yeah, and their stuff was really good. And just so often, especially written reviews as well, so much of it's almost like just a regurgitating of a rule book.
Yeah.
And it's just like, ugh. So I always try to inject a bit of humour and a bit of just in it. Whether I succeed or not, I have no idea, but I amuse myself. And I've had some people go, I like your review. And I'm like, oh, good. I've not put myself under any constraints or pressure. I mean, anyone who comes into this hobby wanting to blog and do videos and stuff, if they're under the illusion that they're going to have that as a career, they probably need to pinch themselves sometimes, because I mean, you know, Tom, yes, he's earning a fin wedge from it. He's surviving.
Yeah.
He's earning a crust, but then that's the thing, he's been doing that for 20 years. Shut up and sit down. I mean, yes, they've done well for themselves as well, but I mean, again, they came with a unique sort of, you know, something really kind of quite new and fresh, and they built their audience and they've done their thing.
Yeah, and they all came from video game backgrounds as well, and they're still doing the video game stuff as well. They still do. I think was it Rado mentioned it when he was on? He said,
"Oh yeah, I listened. Your Rado thing was fantastic."
And he he was saying that they've got cool ghosts that they've got kind of kicking along in the kind of the background, but it's kind of getting away from that regurgitating kind of rulebook type of thing, because these rule books can be quite a difficult thing to get around.
Yes.
So do you possibly know of any way that you could potentially help people get around a rule book, Mike?
Well, there's a possibility, as we've been meandering quite happily here for a while. I suppose I should talk about what I was going to talk about. Yes, so Dized. Dized is potentially just something that might actually help.
No. I know. This happened with Frank West. We did 2 episodes of Frank West, and the first episode of Frank West was just like this. And then Frank West says, can I come back on and actually talk about my Kickstarter this time? So he came back on.
Yeah, Frank is a good talker. I'd spent a good few hours with him. No,
it was just me talking to him, and then he went, and we kind of got off and went, we didn't actually talk very much about City of Kings, did we?
No,
but
that's a good game.
But you came on to join Dized.
I did, so yeah.
And you're the UK regional manager, which, as we said, you now have a stunning selection of tracksuit bottoms. I know you're considering a Chewbacca onesie.
Yeah, some jogging. I invested heavily in some jogging bottoms, which was quite handy, because my work attire is mainly, I'm falling under all the stereotypes of people working at home. A pair of socks not required currently at the moment. You know, just it's lounge wear.
It's too hot for socks.
It's too hot for socks. Just let it free, you know. Just go for it.
I'm just going to get my breakfast. Well, maybe I get my breakfast now. Maybe I'll get my breakfast later.
Yeah, you know, breakfast for lunch. I don't know, you know. Coffee, more coffee is always required.
Nip at Tesco's, get myself a cheeky croissant because we're feeling continental.
Throw all caution to the wind.
Dized. How did that happen?
So, again, we'll go a little history lesson, but I'll keep it succinct to the point, but it has to be there. So, Who Dares Rolls is happening, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago at the expo, I tend to do, I team up with the UK gaming media guys, and Chris especially, who runs that. He's like my ever faithful cameraman. And we were just doing the the Board Game Geek type thing at UK Games Expo, except we were far more low rent. We were like in the corner of one of the halls with just a desk and a tablecloth we'd stolen from the bar, and a camera set up that Chris would record, and a bunch of us, Steve, you mentioned earlier, Steve Tudor, and a bunch of other guys, Luke occasionally, though he's a bit like a bunny in the headlights on the camera, would interview people. and me and Chris were having a couple of beverages in the bar one evening after a heavy Saturday in Games Expo, and these two kind of crazy, scruffy guys with lots of blonde hair and backpacks and strange accents, these two Finnish chaps called Yoni and Tommy, came up to us and were like, "We've seen you in the hall with the video camera thing. Can we come to you and can you film our game?" And and we were like, yeah, fine, whatever, man, have a beer. And we're like, so that's kind of it. And they were like, oh yeah, they were quite excitable. And so sure enough, on the dot the next day, they turn up. And Yoni and Tommy, and they've got Race to the North Pole, which is the board game they're designing at that point in time, with a very early version of this Dized app they had even back then. Mm-hmm. And the game itself is fairly simple, it's more of a family weight game. It's quite vicious. The rotating board was pretty cool, though I referred to it constantly as a spinny thing, which I think Yoni was about ready to stab me. So we did the video for them, and we interviewed them, and I did some bits with them, and they were just insane. They were literally traveling the world at that point in time, off the back of a couple of visas with their game, the demo copy of the game, and they were building an audience for it. And to be at Gen Con that year, and then to get back for Essen that year, where the game was being printed and they would sell it. So they're nuts. And fair dues to them, they went off and they knocked on doors and they got themselves in with rooms with people that, you'd think, how have you done that? And just through sheer bloody minded, we've got a product. And they used the video. I know they used the video for it. Well, they were doing that, what we'd given them. And I kind of felt that was the end of it. You kind of think, well, cool, those crazy Finnish guys, off they go. But they kept in touch. Yeah. Sent me the copy of the game that they've travelled around the globe with, which I've got. It's a treasured possession now because it's got more air miles than I'll ever have in my lifetime.
So you just thought that chapter was finished? Yeah,
you kind of meet people at these things, and you give them a hand up, or you try and do that, and you just you give them it happens, and you just think that's it. But they kept in touch, and the next year, they invited us and said, actually, you and Chris, thank you so much for doing the video for us. It's really helpful. We're going to give you space on our stand, and you can do your interviews on there. And we had like this free camera setup. We were like properly legit. We had it's crazy. We looked like an ESPN type broadcast all of a sudden. Even Vassal, that was the first year Vassal came over, and he paused and stopped at the stand where we were there and was like, that's a pretty goddamn good setup, And we're like, yeah. And they asked for nothing. They gave half their stand up for us. And they were like, no, come on, guys. And, we owe you a favour. And we're like, okay. Obviously, typical reserved British way. We're like,
I kind of feel awkward about you giving all this to us. We've only given you a camera.
Yeah, I filmed you, and I called your board a spinny thing.
I generally insulted you.
But yeah, so they did that, and we kept in touch. I kept in touch with them, and early part of this year, I'd had enough of my job, which was basically awful. I was a store manager for Toys R Us, and I had been for many years.
Really?
Oh, it's the most soul destroying.
Is it?
I enjoyed it. It was one of those weird Marmite things. I loved the job and hated the job. It just absorbed my life. Everything. It was just all absorbing of everything, because you're always on different shifts and patterns, so you're never really getting time to yourself. And it was just, ugh. And, it was just, I've been there this too long, and it's like, I was done with it,
Well, it moves away from being about the individual products, because when you think about going into something like that, where it's obviously something that brings joy and fun, it ultimately is almost about, we are getting X number of product in, we need to look at ways of shifting this product, otherwise it's dead product, and I've got to sell it at a sale price. So how am I going to generate that kind of revenue moving out the building type thing? Yes.
So it was, it was what it was. It paid the bills, and it paid the bills very well for a while. And but I was like, ugh, I'm done. And the wife was definitely done with it. Christmases and evenings and just not having the spare time. So I was like, well, I'm going to just change career. I'm just going to completely I'm done with it. I'm going to change career. And I was looking at all sorts of things. Even I might be a postman. I just wanted something completely just no responsibility, and just like, I just want to just do something, nothing. And then all of a sudden, Tommy, one of the two guys who dies, he'd seen a Facebook post where I'd kind of said, I'm about done with this, and he was like, "Well, come work for us." And I'm like, what? and they've been recruiting before, and they were like, come and work for us. We haven't got anyone in the UK. We know you've got contacts, and more importantly, we just enjoy the working relationship we've had with you. You know us, you know the product. Come and work with us because we're going to do this thing. And I'm like, you know what? Hell yeah, let's just do this.
Just jump right in.
Just it's one of those decisions that you pinch yourself for a moment, and you're like, if you don't accept that and you don't do it, then you've only got yourself to blame. So you're like, yeah, hell, I'm going to do this. Let's do this. So I'm like, yeah, I why not? Let's go on this journey together.
Well, what's the worst? What's the worst that could possibly happen?
What is the worst could happen? Absolutely nothing. It's nothing bad, So I'll get another job later, absolute worst case scenario. It doesn't work out and then fine, there's always another job.
It is like Shia LaBeouf says in Transformers.
Yes.
What happens if we get out of the car?
Exactly.
We could stay in the car. And then it turns out that car's Bumblebee. And then you end up running about doing all types of arty stuff and then starring in the worst Indiana Jones film ever. So maybe that's not a good analogy. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Do something else.
Do something else. So that happened. And it was really as simple as that. I mean, this was a relationship over a couple of years. We'd known each other, and I'd helped them and they'd helped me, and we just kind of knew each other. And they were looking to expand Dized and move it to the next, platform and get it out there. And they were like, we need people in different areas of the world, and you're UK, we know you. Do you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do this. Let's do this.
So Dized as a product, I mean, let's get into
nitty gritty.
Let's get into the nitty gritty bitties. Is it a fully functioning out there product? What stage is it kind of currently at just now?
So Dized at the moment it's seeking crowdfunding. It's right on Indiegogo at the moment, and it's seeking crowdfunding. It's what Dized is an app, and it's an app that it's to teach you board games, and to teach you in like an interactive tutorial. So it's not just whereas you can watch Rodney, and Rodney's a lovely bloke on a video, and he would teach the game.
Yes.
Or you can read the rulebook, and your mate can teach you and all this. And this is kind of taking a little bit of all of that and creating these interactive tutorials where, as you play, you learn the game. That's the key kind of selling point of it. Is it's literally you buy your board game, you take it home, you open the box, and you turn Dized on, and you go, okay, yes, I've got that game, and it talks you through the whole process, even from the point at view of actually, if you've just bought the game, how to break the game down the first time. And it teaches you it will tell you how to set the game up on the table, and then it will step by step, slowly but surely, teach you the game while you're playing the game. That's what it's doing. So that you're learning as you go. A bit like video game tutorials. I mean, Richard covered it when you were speaking to Rado, actually.
Yeah.
Especially a lot of modern video games, they're designed to teach you the game as you play. If you get your Assassin's Creed or the Wales and all that, you play them nowadays, and in the first hour or so of the game is actually tutorial, kind of stealthily merged into the fun you're having.
Yeah, and you still get kind of like context sensitive kind of bits where it says press this button. It's always kind of guiding you of all the way through. Do you regularly use the app yourself? I mean, what kind of stage is it? Is it fully finished? Is it fully functioning? Can you actually, do you muck around with it yourself and play test it?
I'm doing bits and pieces with the rules lookups of them at the moment with the guys, but I mean, there is working versions. We've got the Carcassonne on it at the moment, and some of the other ones, Blood Rage and all that is advanced through, and Seven Wonders they're working on. So they're all in kind of points of kind of finished, but nothing's complete yet. I mean, the whole point behind the Indiegogo is that they're really only a small operation at the moment. It's literally like a couple of guys and a girl. There's Anna, bless her, I won't miss out on Anna, who've been running with this product for a good couple of years. So a lot of it's been done really with a handful of folks.
Huh.
And to achieve what they've done, it's pretty impressive. So the whole point of this is really to do what they need to do in the time scale. They want to do it by like August next year.
Yeah.
They need to do the funding and get it so that they can ramp up production, get more developers on board, get more people on, get more people doing the rules, so that, just many hands might like work. They could do it, as I said, they can do it in 10 years' time with what we've got. But who wants to wait 10 years? To do it in a much speedier and finish the process, then that's what really what this is about, is getting it out there. So A, so people know about it, and B, to get the funding so that it can get more people, throw more people at this thing and finish it in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm. So for somebody, as you said, for somebody kind of like picking up like Carcassonne app, they could go in, I take it it's a pay-as-you-go thing from what I can see.
It's working. There's a kind of subscription to it. So it's basically you pay for credits at the moment, and you'll get, so whatever tier you back it at presently on the thing, which is discounted at the moment, so that's a good time to jump on anyway. But you'll get a credit, or 6 credits or whatever, and you can pay a credit either to have a tutorial for the game. So you've got the others, and you're like, oh, brilliant, I want the others rules and the rule lookup, which is another part of it as well. It's like your BGG forms and all your FAQs and all of that's also part of this process, where you can just tap in and go, I want to find out what that means if I do that.
Yeah.
So all of that can be yours. You can pay a credit and you can have that game, and it downloads to whatever you're using. And it's yours to keep. That's yours. You've got it. You've owned it. But like Steam, you've bought it and it's yours.
Yeah.
The other option is you can spend a credit and have a month subscription. And that gives you everything. That gives you everything what's on there, any tutorial what's on there, all the rules look up, all the other tools. There's lots of social tools that they're building into this. So like stats for tracking your group, and people finders, and board game collection things, and lots of first player pickers, and randomizers, all this other stuff. So you could do all that with a credit. So that's for a month. You get all of that and access to everything. Or if you're only going to go, well, actually, I need this game. Because once your subscription runs out, then you haven't got any of that stuff. That's not on there. Other than there's, I think all the titles that we've announced at present, all the initial titles like Seven Wonders, Carcassonne, Scythe and Blood Rage, all of those are ones that are available kind of for free. You'll have that on the free subscription.
Okay. So it's kind of like, there's like Amazon Music do something where they say, okay, if you're on Amazon Prime, you get access to kind of like basic Amazon Music.
Yeah.
But if you want access to everything that we make, then you have to pay either pay a monthly subscription, or you actually just go ahead and you just buy the songs or the albums kind of individually as you kind of want to, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much how it works. I mean, free will give you limited to say whatever tutorials that are, and I think the intention is eventually to rotate them out so that there's stuff changing out. And it gives you the setups and it gives you all lookup, and you'll get that, bits and pieces of that for free on all that stuff. And then, as you say, the more you pay, the more goodies you'll get.
Okay. Who's going to provide the content then? Is that going to be something that is part of your job as kind of the UK regional manager? Is it reaching out to kind of designers and saying, well, here's the app, do you want to work together, kind of getting your content on to Dized, or how's that kind of working?
It's a bit of all of that. I mean, they're developing at the moment, because all of it's in-house currently, and it's quite, at the present, they're designing the rule tools to make the process a lot easier to do.
Yeah.
Because the initial first few games have all been like hard coded, sort of from scratch, which is highly intensive.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and especially for a small party. So what they also, hand in hand with that, have been developing this tool that will allow you to create these tutorials without the pain of doing what we've been doing. And so that's what the part is. Eventually what we'll do is publishers or designers can, if they want to do their route, go there, get that tool, and they could sit and do it themselves.
Okay.
Or we will do it as well for them. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of fully of. There's going to be some money involved in that, but so yeah. But yeah, that's the way to do it. At the moment, we're doing all of that in house, and that's the rules lookup and everything. And it's quite initially you go, oh, that's fine, and then you actually, when you think about breaking down a game, even something as simple as Carcassonne, what's the steps required to do in the first few rounds? So A, I learn the game, and B, I'm playing the game.
Yeah.
Which is fine, to Carcassonne's, okay, and you go to Seven Wonders and you go, yeah, okay, that's a little bit more complex. But then you got Scythe and you're like, oh.
See, for the likes of, say, something like, say, Seven Wonders, one of the things that, one of the things that I've experienced myself personally is when we played Seven Wonders, you play the game all the way through as normal. But then you got to the end, it was a guy called Dave Wright, who owns lots of board games, but he brought out his mobile phone and he says, look, here's an app. You tell me how many wonders you've got, how many armies you've got, your military strength and everything, and I'll calculate what your victory points are for the game. Yep. Is that the type of thing that you're going to be having types of things like that into the thing, kind of? Yes,
there is intention to have that. They call it, there's all sorts of bits and pieces, but there's there's going to be all sorts of apps to it, and part of it, I know that I've been speaking to Yoni and Tommy, and Yoni's got a plan that he wants that sort of stuff to be that it will calculate your scores at the end of the game, because exactly, especially Seven Wonders is one of those. It's
painful.
It's like algebra. You've played that game and you're like, oh, that's been quite full on, and then you're like, well, now we've got to do some math, boys and girls. Spreadsheet comes out, you're like, oh my goodness. So yeah, part of it is having that there, and and especially I've been speaking to them, they want to do the board game stats, so like your group stats. So if members of you guys you play with regularly, you can start having like league tables or stats on what you've played and who's won what. And I said, you've got to have graphs in there, because like gamers like stats. So it's got to have all that sort of stuff in there as well.
I mean, are you going to be looking at kind of the hotness, like, we mentioned kind of Cool Mini or not? Are there going to be games you're going to be actively chasing to kind of get on the app? I mean, is it difficult? I mean, okay, look at it this way. We both know Frank.
Yes.
Yeah, City of Kings.
Yes.
City of Kings went from being a complete outside game that people had heard of to being kind of like, basically, look at it this way, this year's one of the biggest kind of UK kind of funded campaigns that went out there. Would that be something you would consider kind of chasing if you saw somebody that funded quite well? Or would you consider having an app kind of put in, or would you consider putting your rules and stuff like that kind of in? Is that kind of stuff that you'd be looking at, or?
Yeah, I mean, I could or could not confirm whether me and Frank have had a conversation. But yes.
I had a conversation with Frank today, but it wasn't about you, Mike.
So, some of it is publishers coming to us and saying, whoa, especially as the campaign's grown. A lot of it's been like, guys come to us and gone, we've got this. And we're like, yes. The concern is at the moment the guys have got is obviously we don't want to promise the earth. Because if we turn around tomorrow and go, we're going to have all of FFG's back catalogue, and we're going to have Stronghold games, and we're going to have Portal games, and we're going to have which is all well and good, but some poor soul's going to have to make that work. So, yes, we're announcing stuff, and I'm almost certain, I know for a fact at some point during the campaign we will be announcing more titles. But the concern, it's more caution on the fact of not over-promising. There's always danger of any Kickstarter or any crowdfunding thing is the one that goes, well, we're going to give you all of this, and they've been very cautious just not to overpromise. Yes, the overall eventual goal is to have, get everything on there, get as much as we can on there.
Yeah.
At the very least, get the top 100 on there, get the games that people want to play, and there's going to be options on there for people to vote for what games get put on next once we start doing it. Some of it may be publisher led, because they might come to us and say, well, we want this game on there, and we're like, okay.
Well, I mean, there's companion apps. I mean, let's face it. I mean, it's there is companion apps out there that are already. I mean, if you think about, say, like XCOM, for instance, it's kind of like, it's not teaching you the rules. It's basically running the whole game. what has mood been like in terms of people when you've explaining the concept to them? Not designers, but what's the feedback that you've had
Joe
from the
public?
public? Yeah.
It's been surprisingly really positive, because I'll be honest, I was concerned, because there's one thing I know is that tabletop fans and geeks can be quite opinionated.
I can't remember. I don't remember seeing that, except maybe about 3 weeks ago when I posted up that Terraforming Mars didn't live up to the hype.
Oh my god, that's jeez. I can see that could end badly.
I'm still here.
Yes, good work. It's been. Do you know what? I've actually been quite blown away by how positive a lot of people are. A lot of people are like, actually, that's really interesting. I mean, the key thing is what the message the guys had is they're trying to get accessibility. They're trying to broaden the audience of board games. It's not just to cater to the board game geek fans and people who are out there. This is about getting that other 80% of the population that doesn't even know that, maybe this hobby exists. I mean, there's such a huge untapped market out there. And one of the biggest, barriers to entry is that bloody rule book. You take that, even the most simplest of games that we would go, that's simple. Put that in front of someone, a board game muggle who's not encountered these marvelous things that we've got. They can just lose it. They won't read it. They won't go to the effort.
And there's games that you have to play or you have to see play in order to kind of get to understand the rules. There are rule books out there, which have a reputation of being terrible to understand.
Yes.
And I am looking at the Cry Havoc there because people have said to me, watch a playthrough. Don't bother with the rules because the rules will take you a long time to read through and you'll end up being kind of quite confused.
I wish I'd had that advice because I learnt Cry Havoc by playing it through the rulebook one night. I should have known better. I should know better. I love Ignacy. He's a fantastic designer, and I just love the cool stuff that he designs. But rulebooks are still something that are very much fluid in his hands, should we say? Constantly evolving.
I have questions, and this is probably a biggish question.
Yes.
The first one is from the Giant Brain, which is Ian McAllister, who has asked, how are they going to get enough companies on board to make it worthwhile for consumers? And I guess that's your job.
That's partly my job. Yeah. And we've got regional managers across the globe. There's Jackie, lovely lass, who's in North America. I mean, the guys themselves, Yoni and Tommy, have done a massive amount of already tapping on doors. They've been for the last 2 years. They've been going bang, bang, bang. This is Dized. This is what it is. So they've done a lot of that groundwork with that hard work. I mean, Eric Lang is a partner on board the company. He's met those guys and he saw what they had in mind and he saw what they were doing and he was like, and he comes from video game design background as well. So he understands that whole process of teaching and learning.
Well, there's no doubt that people haven't heard, that people have heard of you. I mean, you have been, one thing we can say is the visibility of the app is pretty much a lot that, everybody's heard of you. And
which is half the battle.
Yeah.
But no, the advantage is, a lot of, the industry, a lot of people know of us, designers and publishers. So getting properly people on board isn't a problem per se, because we've already got quite a raft of publishers on. I mean, Stonemeyer and Simon alone are like pretty good big deals, and Hams and Gluck, Repos, we've got. There's lots of guys already there, and so every day there's the possibility for more people. As I say, we're cautious not to go running around going, we've got all of this.
Yeah.
Because, you start building expectations for people. There's a lot of stuff we'd love to have on there. With anything, we've definitely already got some pretty damn cool companies on board. And with anything, once something kind of picks up a bit of steam, then everyone else looks and goes, oh.
You better get on there. It becomes something that you have to kind of almost have a kind of like a presence on there. Do the
so I'm not concerned by it. I'm like, if you want to be with the cool kids, come and see us. Give me a call.
Do the companies that are getting involved, are they pitching in for kind of like development work? Do they bring aboard kind of resources themselves to help? Are they quite involved in the design process?
Not in my experience at the moment. Most of it is in-house. However, we work alongside them. So we are working on the stuff, and then we'll go away and we'll go to, Jamie, at Stonemire or someone, and go, well, look, this is Sive, this is how we're working on this is how this works.
Yeah.
And so they're signing off on these things, going, oh no, I like that or I don't like that. Or we might well be going, okay, how are we going to get this to work? So there is a bit of bit of this and that, but a lot of it is in-house. But then there's a lot of guys on board who are part of why they brought, me and some other guys is because we've been in the industry and we've been playing board games for so long. So they were like, yeah, board games. So part of it is going back almost to my Nintendo roots, actually, of dissecting gameplay, of kind of going, okay, this is how this works. So, and chances are, if we can fund and get into the money we need, then we'll be bringing more people on board. That's going to be definitely part of the plan.
Yeah. I mean, with you doing that, I mean, are there some of the games that you're looking to bring on, are they quite daunting? I mean, you've mentioned, obviously the Scythe, which is a massive difference or departure from doing something like Carcassonne. I mean,
I've been working on the Seven Wonders rule lookup stuff over the last few weeks. I've just been doing just the work behind how the rule lookup will work. And that itself, even though Seven Wonders is only 4 or 5 pages of rules, once you start breaking that down into... It becomes that's on itself is like, whoa, there's actually a lot going on here. So Scythe is definitely, of our current crop of stuff we've announced, is probably the most daunting, because that's a hell of a game.
It's the exceptions to the rules. It's explaining, like, for instance, when you are when you're upgrading, say, like a section on your map, what actually happens once you've done that? What do you get access to? What happens with the kind of I guess the happiness index when that goes up? What happens when this person attacks against this? What actually rules are you following for the kind of the battle and stuff like that? So it can be. I can see how it can be quite complicated.
That's a little bit more complicated. I mean, the cool thing about it is, even Jamie, when he designed Scythe, part of his thing actually was built into that was this play as you learn mentality, though. I mean, I don't know if you've played Scythe or whatever, but it's got it's got a couple of cards that came with it which were like, do this on your first couple of turns. So even he'd already been thinking about getting you playing and getting you learning as you go. So that's been the advantage with that, is that Jamie, from a designer, had come at it from that angle to a point himself. So it's a case of, that was quite a nice sort of point to come at it ourselves from. We get there. I mean, with anything, it's just trying and error and going, okay, what's the path? There's a route through here to get to this point, and then we spread and go from this point to this point. But every day's a school day.
Yeah. I mean, interestingly enough, the biggest elephant in the room kind of thing is the funding platform, which seems to have gained pretty much the biggest kind of feedback that I've seen. In fact, that's one of the questions that Rory asks is, he says, first of all, it's Rory J. Summers, friend of the show, and all round just really decent guy. He says he backed it today, so he's back.
Thank you, Rory. Then I will say, decent chap that you are.
He is a decent chap, and he says he'd be curious as to why they went with Indiegogo over Kickstarter. I said I know the answer to this question.
I did see you knew the answer. So shall I let you have first pop?
Oh yeah,
do you want to see what I'm going to say and you're going to go?
I saw a conversation on Facebook, which is why I know.
You might know the answer to. Yeah.
It has got something to do with the use of Kickstarter of a platform based on the country of origin that the business is in.
Yes, that is definitely one of the main.
Which is why when the likes of, say, Mantic and Steamforge Games originally started to do Kickstarter, they had to register themselves as US companies, because when they went into Kickstarter in the beginning, it was actually illegal for companies to be able to, in the UK, to be able to crowdfund and use a game or an item as a reward. It's to do with something laws regarding investment.
There was some weird.
So I believe that in terms of, there was two reasons. I believe that one of the reasons was because Dized is a Finnish company, that there was some potential administration issues with regards to that. And also secondly, I believe it was because of the level of support that Indiegogo was offering over Kickstarter. How's that?
Yeah, that's pretty good homework assignment. Yeah, you pretty much nailed it. If you're a Finnish company, you can't run a Kickstarter. The only way to do it is setting up a shadowy, a front company somewhere in a region that will allow you to do it. So that's just more, so that was one of the things, but that isn't necessarily if you want to do it, you're going to do it. So that's not going to stop you running on it. Most of it is related to what at the time Indiegogo were offering in regards to the flexibility and what they were offering behind the scenes and what we could do with the thing. Whereas Kickstarter tends to be a case of, you can do what you can put it on there and then they kind of like, that's it. They don't really, as far as I'm aware from my dealings with it and understanding, is they don't really have any further involvement. It's like, we've approved your project, off you go. As long as you don't step out the realms of what you should or shouldn't do, that's pretty much, other than when it comes around to payday, is where their involvement is. Whereas Indiegogo have been very much involved behind the scenes, leading up to the launch of the project. They've been, advising and supporting and doing stuff with the guys. So it's kind of collaborative effort. They're still kind of that early days of the sort of wagon trail out into the beyond where crowdfunding started as, that sort of, we're going on an adventure together, rather than more of the cold corporate identity. I mean,
I guess the other thing is as well is that, you say the verb is to kickstart a project kind of thing.
Yes.
So it
is the known.
It is the kind of it is like saying, well, what are you doing tonight? And, my wife says, well, see, once you finish that episode with Mike, you better go down and do some hoovering.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of,
it is, I mean, I'll be honest, Kickstarter's huge. And to be honest, potentially we launched on that, we would have got a wider audience. Absolutely. It's true. I mean, who knows? They might well do one another down the road. I don't know. There's usually what you have is companies doing Kickstarter and hopping to Indiegogo afterwards.
When they promise everything and then realise they don't have the fund.
Oh God, okay. Quick, we need more money.
Exactly. You can follow our campaign on, I'll spell it for you. It's INDI.
So, I mean, it was more to do with what they were offering. And more so, it's a tech as an app. So, and actually Indiegogo's more, tech savvy. It's more, a lot of startups and, software and all those sort of tech startups have often gone through Indiegogo.
Yeah.
And it can't be bad. Dice Tower use it, and so does Rodney. So that must tell us something's going on down there.
Exactly. How did you get involved? What kind of levels are you looking at in terms of the pledge? Because it works differently from Kickstarter in that when you pay, you're paying basically.
Yes. So you pay. At the lowest tier we've got is $9 is the lowest tier, which gets you 6 of these credits that we spoke about earlier, and gets you the supporter badge, which is a digital badge, and vote tokens that you can use. And then that's the lowest tier. So, and that equates, at the moment they're saying that, it's about 70% off of what that potentially is going to be when it launches a year from now. So there's quite a discount on it. So you go at 9 and you can go up from there from 15, 39 all the way up to, if you want to do $250, which gives you all sorts of doodads and that higher levels. For the 99 and the 250 gives you the early access and the app developer tools.
I've heard that for the big developments, you actually go around and make people their breakfast, I believe I've been told.
Yeah, I've been busily doing that,
That's just a rumour. It's a good thing to, potentially push for the big people.
Yeah, it is.
Have Mike make you breakfast. There you go.
I'll come round and make you breakfast. Like, would you croissant or full English, sir?
That's why you're out getting the croissants. It's just
it
means you can't turn up in your jogging bottoms, though.
No, I'd have to bloody dress up, wouldn't I? And everything. Oh, God.
Or maybe you could.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe ironically, you could turn up like Arthur Dent, just in a dress, just in kind of like a
dressing gown and a towel. Yeah.
It mentions on the campaign that they get access to free draws. So what is that side of things all about?
So yeah, the free draw. They did this at Gen Con. They did a free draw for like over 100 games, virtually all the top games, and this throne that we offered at Gen Con. And one guy won it, Alan, I can't think of his surname at the top of my head, but he won it in Gen Con and got like an instant board game collection and this blooming great throne. I'm sure he's got it at home. He sent a video to us thanking us, and I've seen this thing. It's huge. Oh, no. And I'm sure his wife's probably like, that's lovely, dear, but.
As soon as we can get a shed.
Yeah. But yeah, so similar thing, but I mean, once we hit 100k, that's going to be the first one we're going to do. I mean, the problem is they're not a cheap thing to throw together. It won't have the throne, but it's got a Geekerson table in it, and like all the bells and whistles that you would conceivably. It's basically geek nerdy board game nirvana in one hit. Everything you need.
I don't know.
You know,
I can't even think about that much cardboard.
There's a lot of cardboard, a Geekerson full table, the full works, and a tablet or device to obviously use your dice on, and Bluetooth speakers, all sorts, just loads of bling. So that's there, but we need to hit that. We're nearly there on the funding, but we need a bit more to get to the free prize draws. And once we get to there'll be more of them. So the more early you've booked on and you've kind of signed up, then if we do more prize draws when we do them, is you get entered into more of them, which is kind of cool.
Because you're sitting at the moment, you're about is it 22 days?
Yeah, about 22 days left to run at the moment,
and you're 75% of the way there. Last time I looked,
I think we're 80 now. Right. I think 80-ish% there. We're about 10 grand off the goal. Just under 10 grand off the goal, and then it's all gravy from that point, because we can start adding more stuff to it. So yes, we're in grasping distance, and it really, I mean, 50k is lovely, and we get funded at that point, but more is not going to hurt. Because there's a lot of work to do. So which is why the 100k is the prize draw is at, yes, it's higher than it's pretty much another run of the whole funding. But it's a lot of giveaway, and the more we can get on, the more money we get is taking time off of development. So, every 10k is taking months off the development.
So is everybody,
it's pretty much as simple as that. The more money is on there, the speedier the process will be. We get it there quicker. So that's where we're at.
So, for people, have you got the elevator pitch? What would you say to somebody who's saying, "Yeah, this sounds okay, but why should I bother? Why should I jump in? What's in it for me?"
What's it for you? Well, you're the cutting edge of board game tech, aren't you? Is the thing. As I say, it's not so much, it is you're getting the app and you're getting stuff, but this isn't kind of going down the road of like the Kickstarters, where you're getting thrown bling at you. This is more about come and it's Field of Dreams time. I have a dream. We have a dream of everyone being able to play board games. Everyone, and more people getting lots and lots, and everyone playing board games. And this is one route to do it. So it's all about coming in and sharing the dream. Yes, you get the app at a discounted rate. Yes, you'll get the option of what you're going to do with that, whether you want to subscribe or whatever you want to do with that. But it's also about actually come and let's go back to the basics of what crowdfunding was about, which was about getting a dream or getting something cool made, not all about what can I have?
Yeah. Exactly.
You're getting stuff. You're getting the app, but this is all about, let's get something cool in the industry. Let's get something out there in the world.
That sounds good enough. That sounds good enough to me. You could have obviously sung Gene Wilder Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
It was nearly there.
I thought you're almost there. I thought you were just going to go, come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Like that, and then everybody would just, curtains would go down and the spotlight would come on you, and that's definitely getting edited out.
Yeah, it's not good. The best I could have managed was a snooker loopy, and that would have been pretty awful. So.
No, but I mean, it's one of these things. It's one of you could be in at the beginning of something, or you could be playing kind of catch up kind of thing. The premise behind it, the number of times I've seen a 4-hour game night, and the first hour and a half is spent kind of going through the rules, and people back checking the rules, and people arguing over the rules, and having to actually stop and stick Rodney on a video just to kind of watch it through, kind of thing. So and more apps are kind of apps are happening. People are playing board games on their phone. They're playing board games on their tablets. They're using, I think it's Mansions of Madness has got its app. I think you've got XCOM, as we mentioned as well. So I think there's always going to be resistance, because people say, I like my cardboard. I don't like the electronic stuff getting involved because it might take my soul. Kind of
I'm
thing.
absolutely behind that mentality. I mean, what I love about our hobby is the fact that it's tactile.
Yes.
That we're sat around a table.
Yes.
I've got friends with me, and there's something I'm playing with something in front of me.
Yes.
And so this isn't about replacing any of that. You could usually use it for the rule lookup. Even that side of stuff it's there. It's going to be there. It's like, oh, actually, we've got this, as you say. Or what's the rule for this? I don't know. And it's going to be there. Boom, boom, boom. What's the rule? 7 Wonders or whatever it is. How do I do this? Blop. And it will tell you.
Exactly.
And there's none of this BGG, as you say, none of Rodney. Bless him. Though everyone wants to watch Rodney.
Rodney is just that, the world needs kind of more Rodney, which is where Rodney's kind of there. I do sometimes worry that he gets a bit hot because he wears a polo shirt and he has a t-shirt underneath. So sometimes I worry under the studio lights he might end up getting a bit hot.
It's Canada. He'd be fine. It's quite chilly over there, I hear.
Oh, well, I suppose.
So and that's the point, is we're not on about replacing the Rodneys of the world and people writing, reviews or walkthroughs or videos. None of that's going to get replaced by this. It's not going to happen, even if it was our master plan, and it's not. There's no twirling. We will take over the rule writing world. Because there's going to always be people who are just going to be like, I'm not going to, I like the rule book.
I like the rule book. And then you get ones like, say, Mechs and Minions, which does a ridiculously, I've backed into Mechs versus Minions.
The old Mechs Minions.
But it does a ridiculously good job of showing you how to play the game.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Very
it is
good.
pretty good. So yeah, it's another tool for learning games, and more importantly, it's got obviously the other bits on there. What does more than just teach you games, rule lookup, and all the other socially bits. But most importantly, it's about if 10 years from now, Dized has been a success. It's around. It's on every game, and 100,000 people are now playing board games that weren't going to play board games during that period of time, then surely that's a success in anyone's book.
Absolutely. So, where can people find you on the interweb nets?
Yes, the interweb nets. Well, me personally, I can be found lurking around the sordid corners of whodesrolls.com, which is www.whodesrolls.com. That's my sort of home from home. Be aware, not always safe for family viewing. But yeah, Dized itself is dized.com. It's DIZED. Mm-hmm. If you go there, that pretty much launches you to anything else. It'll link you. We're on Indiegogo under the Dized. It's a very long string that I'm not going to attempt to read out.
As I say, we will take all this information and we shall put it in the show notes so that we have notes.
In the show notes. But yeah, go to Dized.com. If you desperately listening now, go, I need to know more. You go to Dized.com, and from there you'll be able to link to wherever you want to go and get all the wonderful information you want to do. That's the main point to look. And we're all over Facebook. We're everywhere. We're all over.
You are everywhere at the moment. That was the thing. That was how it kind of got
omniscient.
It was like, here's an email. Oh, what's this all about? Oh, I'll email them back. Which was good. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, and we appreciate every single person that does, we are delighted to see the iTunes reviews that seem to keep coming in. You lovely people. Thank you very much. But you can find us on Twitter at We're Not Wizards. You can find us on Facebook at We're Not Wizards. If you go to YouTube and search for We're Not Wizards Tabletop, you'll find us there. We are on Stitcher, we are on Spreaker, we are on Acast, we are on any place you can find a podcast. If you can't find us on the podcast app of your choice, which is going to be strange because you're not technically going to be able to listen to us because you can't find us in the first place, but let us know and we'll get it onto the place which you need to find us, so you can't find us, so you find us so you can listen to us. If you want to email us, you can email us at magic@we'renotwizards.com. We always like to speak to anybody who likes to speak to, because we like the sound of our own emails. And if you have liked what you've listened to tonight and you fancy, well, if you want to help and support the show, then go into Apple Podcasts, as they like to call themselves. I'm sure they penalise us every time we say iTunes, by the way.
Yeah, then they go.
So, I mean, listen, right, drop them down a couple of rankings.
Stars off there.
Exactly. So what we say is, if you do like what you've listened to tonight, please subscribe. Please share us where you can. And also, if you're feeling really lovely and warm, drop us a review. And as we like to say, don't give us 10 stars, because that will make us big-headed. But don't give us 1, because that will make us cry. Give us somewhere in the middle, like a 5, because it's average. And we are decidedly average. But the gentleman that's not been average tonight is the rather entertaining Mr. Barnes, Mike Barnes.
Yes, Mike.
That's a very good Roger Moore impression.
It is. It's fantastic. My eyebrows are going as well at the same time. It's amazing.
I could see that on the webcam. I wasn't sure that was your eyebrows or not.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you very much for coming on. It's been
a pleasure, sir.
It has been a pleasure indeed, sir.
It has been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure.
We should do this again sometime down the line, I feel.
We shall indeed. And we shall find out what's happening with Dized and everything like that.
Yes, well, thank you very much, and I wish you every success in your endeavours. You're doing quite all right for yourself, really, aren't you?
We do all right. We do all right.
Right.
We do all right. We do all right. But there is only 2 more things to do, though.
What's that? What is this?
Well, the first thing,
yes,
is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards.
No.
Are we wizards, Mike?
We're not wizards.
Definitely not.
Definitely not.
Absolutely not. And the second thing to do is to say goodbye. So it is a goodbye from it is a goodbye from the one, the only, the tracksuit wearing, crumpet carrying, Dized selling UK regional manager who dares to roll wherever his journeys and travels will take him. It is the absolutely fantastic Mike Barnes. Say good night, Mike Barnes.
Thank you, and good night, people.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe. Roll 6s. We love cardboard. Remember, we love cardboard. But sometimes, if you can get help from maybe a potentially a little electronic friend that's going to make you learn those rules a little bit quicker, is that such a bad thing? Maybe's aye, maybe's no. But anyway, it's time to go. So until next time, goodbye.
Ta-ta.